Ralph Mayhew here. I want to talk to you today about what camera you should buy, the greatest dilemma of every person that ever wanted to take a photograph ever. And I have the answer for you. That's right, hold tight, it's going to be amazing. Let's begin. And then, right now I think we should play an intro video, which I don't have yet. If you can help with that, if you want to suggest something, that'd be amazing. We'll see how we track over the next couple of weeks. So just pretend there was a really catchy intro and let's get started. When I was about 6 years old, I got my first camera. It was one of these awesome things. You put a 110 film in the back, click, you pull it apart. It was about this big and it had a button here. And I went around and I took the most amazing photos of people just doing stuff, like my mum cooking, for example. There were all sorts of photos that you just take when you're a kid because you look at something and go, wow, that looks cool. But there was something about capturing a moment, a real life moment, and freezing it forever, cherishing it forever. What was your first camera? Just stick it in the comments below. I'd love to hear. I then graduated up. Dad had a camera much like this. This is an old Pentax. So I don't know what Dad's was, but it was really similar to this. It was completely manual. You look through and there was this cool, like as you look through, you could focus in. And as you focused in, the bit that was blurry, kind of all configured to make something really clear. And when it was clear, you just hit the butter, hit the shutter. But it was Dad's camera, so he put the settings all right on that. So I then graduated from that to a Konica Minolta SLR. I bought this maybe in the year 2000, maybe a bit before. I remember going into Melbourne, going into Canberra shop right on the corner there. I think it was on Burke Street, and just looked through all these cameras, and the guy helped me think about what I wanted, and I bought a lens, probably a 24-70 that clicked on the front, and I then just launched into what it was like to actually take photos for real. And they were back in the days when I didn't have a light meter. You would have to sort of guess from time to time. So you'd set you were stuck on an ISO of 400, you would guess your shutter speed, you'd work out your aperture, and you kind of go from there and keep track of how you went. It was an amazing way to learn photography and learn how light is used and manipulated in that space. Then digital cameras came out, and digital cameras are awesome. They take so much of the hard work out of it. Anybody can take an amazing photo using a digital camera. So I started with a Nikon D70, and if you're in Australia, you probably call it a Nikon. If you're in most other parts of the world, it's probably a Nikon. So I've just got so used to calling it a Nikon. Apologies, Nikon, if that's actually your name. So I got a Nikon D70. It was incredible. You got to really increase the excellence of what your photos look like. And so when I went on holidays or went to special events, or I had some spare time, I'd go out and start shooting with this thing. And then it was time to upgrade. And as prices kind of, digital camera, when prices came out, they were pretty high, and then they kind of plummeted a bit. And so I got a Nikon D7100, and I love that camera. And it was amazing. It served me really well. And so when I got into this in a much more serious capacity, that was the camera I brought in. It was sort of top of the range of consumer market. So it wasn't a pro camera. It was still a crop sensor. But gosh, it was just wonderful to play with that. And then I did something you really shouldn't do ever. Ever. It's a little bit embarrassing to say, actually. Oh, I guess we're friends. So I scratched the sensor. See, when you take the lens off a camera, underneath there's a sensor. The sensor is what picks up the light and creates the image. Sometimes that sensor gets dirty, and before I knew any better, I would just clean that thing with a like a swab, or put my finger in there and so forth. And then there'd be bits that I couldn't remove, so I push harder. Yep. So that was a $1,000 mistake. And you can get a new sensor put in for $850, or I could buy a new camera for $1,000. So I did. I bought a Nikon, getting it right, D7200. It was the next one up. They just sort of improved on it. It had Wi-Fi. Its capabilities were a tiny bit more advanced, and I love that camera until I came to the point where I then upgraded to what I have now. Want to see what that is? Here it is. And this is it. This is a beautiful camera. This is a mirrorless camera. It's kind of got a flip up back screen. It has auto tracking, so you can track things. It started off being quite, it was a brilliant camera, but its tracking was terrible. Since the third firmware that they've created, the tracking is now top notch. So I really enjoy using this camera. Now here's the interesting thing. If you put this camera in my hands a couple of years ago to use, I would not have learned all the things I've learned about photography since. You see, buying the right camera, buying the best camera, which camera should you buy, is not the best on the market. Because the best on the market will give you two limitations. One, you won't be able to learn all the things that you need to learn as a photographer. And two, you will not be able to utilize all the things that this machine offers you. You're simply wasting money. You can actually pick up a cheap camera, like a DSLR, that's not quite this, but has interchangeable lens that works fantastic for what you need for check it out, 150 bucks. Yep. And if you search hard on things like Gumtree or Marketplace or whatever, you can pick up a couple of lenses and a body for like 200 bucks, whether it's Canon or it's Nikon or it's Sony or it's whatever. There are plenty of avenues out there for you to capitalize on this. So which camera should you buy? I choose Nikon. I'm filming this on a Canon. I just sold a Sony A6000. You don't have to be brand loyal. I think you want to use the machine that works best for your needs. I chose a Nikon, and I enjoy the Nikons because they feel more intuitive. It feels like they make more sense, and when you use them, what you expect them to do, they do. But Canon users could say exactly the same thing. That doesn't actually matter too much. So what is the best camera? The camera you have. The camera you have. And if you're sitting there going, I don't have a camera, all I have is my phone, use your phone. The cameras in these are just amazing. The things you can do with your phone and the camera, you couldn't do not only with this, but with the Konica Minolta I used to have. So I want to encourage you, the camera that you have is the camera that you want to use. And if you're going to buy a new camera, don't buy exponentially up. Buy a couple of steps up, because that will enable you to do some of the things you've realized you can't do on your current camera, but it will also enable you to grow into what you then need. And to be honest, I might have sold 6 or 7 cameras and bought 6 or 7 cameras in the last few years. You can basically, if you do it well and you look after them, you can sell them for around the same price that you buy them if you're diligent about it. If you want me to talk about how you pick up really cheap gear and what does that look like and my process for doing that and buying the right gear for your right needs at the right time, just comment below and I'll put together a video. So which camera should I buy? Well, if you've already got one, then none. Bring it out, dust it off, pick it up and go out and start shooting. If you don't have one, go cheap. Buy an interchangeable lens camera that you can change the lenses on, because you'll want to do that as you get better. Buy a body that you do a little bit of research on the net and make sure that it fills your needs. When I first started shooting, it was 6 megapixels. This does 24. I've got a mate that shoots 64 megapixels. There's cameras out now that do 100 megapixels. Work out what your needs are, work out what your budget is, and decide within that. And finally, go have a play. If you have friends that have cameras, go and ask for a play of theirs. Go into a camera shop. Have a feel of the different brands. What do you like? What feels good in your hands? What functions can you access at what speed? What do you think about the look of it? Do you like it? You want to go out with a camera that you really enjoy, and it will feed your passion for photography. That's it for me this week, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to subscribe, that would be amazing. Thank you to those of you who've already done that. It's stoked. Just that people would want to be part of this thing that's kind of bubbling up and happening. If you like this video, just give it a big thumbs up. Be stoked with that. Thanks.